Welcome to Crashing Game Night. My name is Matt Diorio, your host. As always, tonight we've got a very special guest with us, Trini, as well as Jubilee from X-Men 97. Holly Chou is joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's Holly Chow, by the way.
Holly Chou, sorry. My apologies on that one.
No worries.
We
It's
got the
okay.
beanie one.
It's your first slip up on research, like after 500 episodes.
Yeah,
I
right.
think you're fine.
This is also pre-recorded if you want to just say it again.
Yeah.
No,
We have to give him crap. It has to happen.
We need to give him.
We got to do it. We got to do it.
We
It
keep
was
our mistakes.
AJ has said,
315.
AJ who plays Gambit, I'm already getting into it, but AJ who plays Gambit on X-Men 97 has said that he always has to go back to my Instagram handle and read it out loud before it reminds him like how it's supposed to be said. And to give him credit, like I have to do the same thing with Adrian Huff, who plays Nightcrawler, because I always want to say how.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, so
cool.
there you go.
You know what? Yeah, but like they're talking 315 episodes of all the pre-research, and yes, I'm a lot of mistake it's wrong. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, the beanied one, Gerard Barrera.
How you doing, all my nerds out there? Today is a good day. X-Men 97. Miss Chow, thank you so much for coming.
You were going to say
joining.
Cho, weren't you? You were going to say it.
No,
You were gonna
I
say it.
stumbled.
Admit
I
it.
was again because we spoke about. I'm like, oh my god, don't mess it up. I made myself nervous, but I'm so excited. I can't wait to get into like the episodes. Your main episode. I can't wait. It's like my childhood. So thank you so much for coming.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation.
And the babyface one, Theo Walski.
What's up, everybody? What's going on?
And then the man with the couch, the maitre d' services, the lion's mane, Jason Belidio.
How's it going, guys? How's it going? Thank you so much, Holly, for joining us.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Matt, for stop calling it the discount couch. Jesus.
It's the college therapist couch.
I mean,
It's not the
it's
discount
supposed-
couch. It's the college therapy.
Yeah, the college couch. But I mean, it's supposed to be a little bit like different.
It's
We're
artsy.
going a new route
So,
for
It's different and artsy. I like it.
2025.
So before we get into this, I do really quick. This is kind of like a late birthday present for me, early birthday present for Jerry.
Notes.
So yeah, my birthday
Happy
was Saturday.
belated, happy early.
Jerry's
Thank
is
you.
coming up
Thank you.
on the
God, you're
28th.
both so old.
28?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a leap baby.
No,
Almost.
he
I
missed
almost
it.
was. Yeah.
almost was.
Yeah, I really was on the
Oh,
last
29.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost there.
Almost.
So Holly, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
I know you've been keeping busy with appearances and
Oh, yeah. Well, it's appearances, and then when I do have a moment to be at home, it's trying to get all the stuff done that I'm not usually able to do. Like I'm trying to get all my taxes done before I have to leave town again in a couple weeks.
Ooh.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. They'll just be like regular, all of us, where we're like, okay, it's April 12th. It's April 5th. I
I'm
do my
gonna
taxes
be
this weekend.
gone for pretty much all of April
Oh,
because
wow.
so I leave like mid-March to do I have two cons late March, and then in April I have three cons in a row, or cons or appearances in a row, meaning consecutive weekends. And in between those weekends, I'm going to be flying back and forth to NorCal to shoot a feature. So,
Oh,
nice.
So
you
you got quite
Wow.
the schedule.
Yeah,
so
you
I'm
gotta
just
get
not going to be
schedule.
home. If I don't do my taxes before I leave mid-March, it's not going to get done.
Oh no.
That was kind of leading into my next question. I was going to ask how has it been with the con and convention circuit? Has it been fun? Like, have you been getting a lot of?
Yeah, it's fun. It's really interesting to learn about the sort of like different personality of each con. And then I think I'd only been to two cons before that, before I had sort of broken into the industry. Like obviously I was interested in it, but before I had I guess achieved professional status, I went to like an anime con in San Jose at one point, and I went to New York Comic Con in either 2014 or 2015 or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so and then I met Chris Claremont then, but I haven't posted that picture from, back then because my hair was growing out I had to shave it for a show and it was growing out and just looked
Oh, no.
real
Wow.
bad. So like it's an embarrassing photo. I don't know. I got to meet him, re-meet him. Yeah, was it New York again? It was New York again. So in October. And
Oh,
got a
cool.
better picture. But I also met Jim Lee, and my hair looks crazy in that picture. So I'll have to meet him again and get like a
Bummer.
picture redemption.
It's
Jim
one of
Lee,
those
that
where
would
you just
be
need to.
yeah.
No, you just need to get like the physical photo of it and then just like glue your face now on it. Like,
Right. And
yeah.
in that way, I'll have met everybody that I care to meet.
So real quick before we kind of get into some of your projects and stuff like that, you mentioned flying back and forth, right? And you
Mhm.
for shooting a pic, feature length and whatnot. My question, we talked about, we've talked about the strike in the past on the show. So with you being part of SAG, right, you've been part of not only the film side, but now you're part of the interactive strike side.
Mhm.
Um, one of those things, a lot of people aren't up to date on it now because it's just not talked about in the media anymore. Like it seems like even game journalism has kind of left it off to the side.
Mhm.
You don't hear much about it. So really, so from you being on your side and being a voice actor, both in interactive media and whatnot, is, why are you guys still on strike?
Well, so there's still a gap, a significant gap between, there's still a gap on important issues, between the game companies and the union. So there are, a few different, well, so what do you guys know already as like lay people or like, like somebody who's not, actively in the industry or in the union? What do you guys know about it as just, game players, game enjoyers?
Well, I know
Gamers. That's
from
the word.
for me still keeping up on, games media, which like I said, it's not really talked about still, right? It's kind of like been put
Mhm.
on the back burner.
There is a strike, but
We
you
know it's
know,
strike, but we haven't heard much of anything about it since it first happened, which there's the
Yeah.
major players, that are within the game industry. Some of them are, our favorite studios like Insomniac, is one of the struck studios. But and I know one of the key tenements is that, your pay,
AI.
working conditions, but also AI.
Yeah.
well, I would say that it's actually mainly AI. These are the sticking points. It's about AI protections. And I
Mhm.
will correct just nomenclature, I guess, is just you mentioned a struck studio, but actually there are no struck studios. It's
Oh,
struck projects. So there are three ways to be a signatory. And
yep.
by signatory, I mean that this entity can agree per
Mhm.
project or as an entity to be a signatory, meaning they agree to adhere to certain rules. So you can be a publisher, you
Mhm.
can be a development company, a game developer, or you can be a recording studio. And any three of those at any, they're not tiered exactly as a hierarchy, but if you're making a game, and whether you're a publisher or the game developer or recording studio, you could become signatory, which means that you go to SAG-AFTRA and you
Mhm.
agree to adhere to certain rules on this project.
Okay.
Now, um, at this time, in the strike, by this point, um, there are there are struck games, and and there are struck and there are a few contracts by which you can safely make work.
Mhm.
So it means
Okay.
it's a union project. We're encouraged to do it. This includes contracts like the tiered budget agreement and the interim agreement.
Mhm.
Um, and
Okay.
so you can be a game. So this happened with Rita's Rewind, right? And I know that's
Mhm.
that's one of the games that you'll want to talk about soon.
Yep.
So Rita's Rewind is an indie game. It's pretty small. So they are on a tiered budget agreement. And when I first heard about the game, or I was first approached about whether I wanted to do a few lines for it, it was not union. I basically said, like, I'm not going to do that, but if they end up signing a tiered or interim, yeah, I'm happy to do that. And they did flip it. And so the Digital Eclipse ended up going signatory, and it became a tiered budget agreement. And then they got a bunch of union talent. They got, I think that AJ and Isaac probably would not have been able to do it if it hadn't been flipped. And Dan Amrich, who works at Digital Eclipse, but he also plays the Blue Ranger. I believe that he re-upped his. I think he maybe had at one time been a SAG-AFTRA member and then wasn't anymore, but he got back on it so that he could work this game. There at this point, there is now more work happening through tiered and interim contracts than there is on Side Letter 6. Do you guys know what Side Letter 6 is?
I've never heard of that.
No.
No, nothing? Okay. Okay. So there is still work happening on some games that are not technically struck, but only because of this clause grandfathered into the contract from AFTRA the days before SAG and AFTRA merged. So this is basically a clause that just says that during a strike, games that were already in production before the strike took effect, they don't have to stop. They're not struck. And so a lot of union actors, and in fact, a lot of non-union and FICOR actors are choosing not to audition for Side Letter 6 games. So basically, the official word on Side Letter 6 is that, like, it's proceed with caution. This contract doesn't offer you any AI protections. So just know that if you decide to take this contract.
So it's also in a way to kind of take a stand on those projects to continue on.
For who to take a stand?
For the SAG actors to kind of take a stand or to really think twice about joining those kind of projects.
That's right. So it's more about like, as a union, our negotiating power comes from being able to withhold work, right? To say that you can't force us to work. If you want our talent, if you want us to perform for you, which we want to do too, you have to agree to certain things, including reasonable AI protections. I would say that the union can't and isn't telling anybody that they mustn't work on Side Letter 6 games. But all we'll say is that a lot of us are choosing not to, because we feel that it's one of the few ways in which we can have any leverage as we negotiate moving forward. And this is what, but so again, that's why it's especially heartening that at this point more money is being made from tiered and interim safe contracts than from the grandfathered contract.
Nice.
Which
Good.
It is sad, but that makes no sense from a business perspective. On the other side, it's like, guys, we're doing these tiered. Why don't we just do it so we can get the rest of the projects up and running? That, like,
I think it just does. I think it does highlight that there's really nothing that's keeping us from. There's nothing that's keeping you from moving forward, except for the fact that you don't want to agree to this for to AI protections in the future. And as far as, like, the gap between where the union is and where the game companies are on those protections, it's basically a big one is the definition of digital replica. It's like the definition of terms, and then also what they want to agree to in terms of consent rules and compensation rules.
it's kind of similar to with when the film side was going on strike, where some of those studios wanted you to be able to be copied in perpetuity for 1 day's worth of work, right? Similar to that.
Well, yeah, to get specific about it. And by the way, if anybody is interested, Game Performance Matters has made some really good explainer videos about these terms. That's pretty much where I'm pulling a lot of my information, apart from
Oh,
like
nice,
conversations
nice.
that I've had and stuff like that.
Knowledge is
But
power.
Yeah.
yeah, just so I don't sound like a total dumbass when I'm on here. I'm sure I'll get some things wrong, and then like
That's okay. I'll have you cooked the entire show. I'm the dumbass.
But so for instance, does the term digital replica mean anything to you?
Digital
I
replica to me
mean,
would
like-
be
Presence, so like facial features, look, sound, anything that can be captured
Replicated.
essentially
Yeah.
Very good.
through a
I
digital
mean, essentially,
format.
I would think your likeness. It would be your entire likeness.
Yeah.
Well,
Captured and altered.
It's not just your likeness though. So let's say all they did was use my voice. They didn't use, they didn't record me on camera to use as reference for anything. They just used my voice. That's still for SAG-AFTRA, the way that we want to define digital replica is to say that a digital replica would be a digital model used to generate new performance using AI technology based on your voice, movement, or facial expression. So if we're going to make a video game character that's used AI technology that is based on just my voice, it doesn't have to be my likeness, but in SAG-AFTRA's view, that still counts as a digital replica using my performance.
yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the employers are saying that where things currently stand, the employers want to define a digital replica as a generated performance that has to be readily identifiable and attributable to the performer. So you would have to, they make this character that looks nothing like me. It's a cat or something like that, right?
Sure.
Their argument would be that you have to be able to know that that cat is, that's obviously Holly Chou. In the way that let's say
Did you say
that
that opens for huge loopholes in order
Exactly.
to
Yeah,
go
I was
through
about to say
anything.
like that. Those descripts are just incredibly vague,
Especially
to
since you
leave
have,
so many
like,
loopholes.
Especially like
Completely.
even if you were just not needing to prove that it was Holly Chow's voice or anything, like I mean, you could go in and say like it's an impressionist that did a really good job
Well,
of Holly Chow.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
if you can prove, because let's say you can prove that it's Holly Chou. You have the work records. We have the employment records. We know for a
Okay.
fact that I provided the voice of that character. The way that the employers want to define it currently, it doesn't matter if we know for sure that Holly did the voice. If it's not immediately recognizable, then and attributable to me, like it's not my famous, very distinct voice, and that's a Holly Chou for sure, then they don't have
Kinda like,
to offer any AI protections.
Kind of like James Earl Jones. You just know
Right.
when you hear his
Yeah.
voice who
Right.
that is, right?
Right.
But even then,
But
though,
at the same time, you have voice actors that do different voices, a wide range of voices.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult to prove that as
Yes.
well. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
why am I blanking on his name? Jerry, help me out. Seth, who does Stewie.
Seth MacFarlane.
Oh, Seth
Oh,
MacFarlane.
Yeah, Seth
yeah.
MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
Oh, yeah.
How are you going to do anything with that?
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
one of those
crazy.
instances where, like, if you recorded, a voice for a video game character, and he was doing one of his famous voices, and it didn't sound like him/Brian, and you knew exactly that it was him, or if it didn't look like, or if it, so they're basically saying that it has to look, move, and sound exactly like the performer. Basically, the
Okay.
character would have to be Seth MacFarlane.
That's
Right.
so ridiculous.
That's
I'm
ridiculous.
kind of
But case
curious
in point, a
who's on their
loophole-
legal team, because me, who's the dumbass on the show, can already figure out there's a huge loophole, and like it's not
Yeah.
that hard to figure out.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I kind of feel like studios or even animation studios have kind of have run down that lane, because really all they have to do is alter the voice just a little, still using your
And
voice,
put a
and
little
say,
pitch
well,
in it or something.
distinctly, how can you tell it's
Yeah.
it's Holly's voice? Or like using your likeness, they can take away just one little feature It's like, well, is that complete? Is that actually her? Is that fully? No, she.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And let's
Yeah,
say
that's
that the
insane.
video game character was, was Seth MacFarlane, and they blend it with another voice. So, they have him reading it, and they also blend his voice with James Earl Jones. They want a little James Earl Jones like quality in there or something. That also disqualifies it from counting as worthy of protections.
Right.
See, that's just
So
And the
even
replica has to be
merging
of a specific
two
individual.
voices. Yeah, that's
That's too
insane.
much. Yeah.
and for me that
It's like there's no
Yeah.
there's no like middle ground. There's nothing but loopholes. Well, it's just
So on that
what's the
on
point of
that
the
front,
rules?
we're pretty far apart still.
Yeah,
Um,
I would definitely
Yeah.
say so with that information. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, so let's say that they did eventually agree to the definition of digital replica, or putting that aside, uh, how do we consent and compensate for our definition of a digital replica? There's also some disagreement there, where we want, so for instance, we want certain information to be disclosed before before we agree to our performance being used for a digital replica. And this kind of information, some of it we already get, right, in our current contract. It's like things like they have to tell you the project's code name, whether it's part of a franchise, whether you're reprising a role, and if there's profanity, violence, sexual situations, because some performers might not be comfortable with all that. Often we are,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
if somebody's got a problem, they should have the right to be like, you know what, I don't really want my performance being used in that context, and so I don't
sure.
consent.
Yeah.
And so far, game companies are okay. We already have that. They also want SAG-AFTRA also wants to know, or to be told, both the union and the performer, if their performance is being used to generate dialogue that is offensive, religious, or endorses a political position. And game companies are like, no, we don't want to agree to that. And for the record, we already have that. They want to take it out of the next contract.
Wow.
Well,
See, and I
Then-
would want to,
Yeah.
I would want to know that information up front, because if
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
hold true to one, view, right, on, like we talk about,
you
we
have your certain
support,
beliefs that
like
that
for
you
us, we
stick to.
support like LGBTQ rights and
Right,
right, that
right.
all on that. If that game
Yeah,
is
you
going to be
don't want
talking about
your work to be
anti
used for a character that is
opposite,
racist or like super
or
homophobic.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, I could understand, because that's also your image, your brand essentially that you've built up over the years, that people
Yeah.
know to expect that from you, and then all of a sudden it's the
And
exact
then that's
opposite
just
just because it was a
that's
paycheck,
so unfair to have that
Yeah.
sense of like no control. Where
Yeah.
I mean, if that were to happen to you, you have no control over that,
Yeah.
and it's
There's
like,
a lot of those things
control
happening.
not my
is
view.
exactly the tenet. So
Yeah.
it's 3 C's. It's
Mhm.
consent, control, and compensation. And
Yep.
thank you for saying control. That's exactly it. That's exactly the issue.
Yeah, because
Um,
I don't know if you guys were familiar with the commercial that was not necessarily intended to be seen on the internet, of celebrities' likeness
yeah,
Oh,
against
yeah, the
Scarlett
AI
Johansson
one?
against Kanye.
exactly.
Kanye,
Yeah.
So I mean, like, things are already happening with that stuff, and
Yeah.
like I would be baffled to be one of those celebrities and not be able to sue the crap out of that person for
Yeah.
doing that.
Right. And
Mhm.
not being able to sue, I'm glad you're bringing that up as well, because it's an important point about protections being enforceable. So you can put stuff in a contract, but you need something to be enforceable. Oh, puppy. So when we say that we want something to be enforceable, it means that, like, you can put stuff in a contract, but like when it comes to, if somebody violates, those terms in the contract, are you able personally to do anything about it, to enforce that?
Mhm.
And the answer is not always. You need the sort of the power of the union behind you to help you if there are violations made against things that you've gotten that you're supposed to get in your contract.
So, Holly, you mentioned we were talking about the tiered structure and stuff like that, and from a we know what this means now to the actors themselves, which is huge because honestly, in any of the stuff I've really seen out there, it's never been from the actor's point of view yourself, right?
Hmm.
And what you guys are fighting for from your own words. It's always been just, hey, here's our little press release, right? This is kind of bullet a little bit of high level. This is what we're fighting for. But so when you talk about those tiered projects versus the side six stuff, is that for any of those projects that are struck, so for the gamers and the impact to them and these future games coming out. So when you say that it's you potentially could interview for the or audition for those or the project is just struck. So does that mean that basically if you guys aren't recording those lines, that basically those games just either A aren't going to get potentially released, or is it that they're going to get released incomplete because you guys aren't providing the lines for
So
Mm.
I believe there's at least one, and I think maybe a couple of major games that anytime I've heard this talked about, they don't drop the names of the games, and I assume it's
them?
because they don't really want to promote the game. But from my understanding, there are major games that have been released with just silence in certain
Oh,
sections
Hmm.
of it because
Oh wow.
they can't finish that. Which thank goodness for actors who are holding the line
Hmm.
hmm
because a lot, trying to get people to, recasting inside Layer 6 games, and there are definitely actors who have been recast. But you know, that's due to our pressure. That's due to us
Hmm.
withholding our work and other everybody holding the line together. That's
Hmm.
how we achieve that.
And that makes that now. I don't remember what game it was that I saw, but they said their latest DLC was being released with just subtitles, with no voice
Mm-hmm,
lines because they were
mm-hmm.
saying that they were unable to provide the voice acting for it. So with your explanation, that makes perfect sense now that, well, I guess that's probably a project that was struck,
Yeah, and
that
hopefully, for the gamers end, and again, like I'm telling you my view from the actor's
Mhm.
perspective, which
hmm
you may not have gotten before. From a gamer's perspective, which I'm not necessarily the biggest gamer, but like,
Which that's okay.
that's how it matters on your end, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you enjoy a game because of its excellent performances and because of all that actors bring to it, and by the way, it's not just our industry. We are sort of a bellwether, but like in every field is being affected by AI and
Yep.
the future and
Yeah,
its potential
absolutely.
and all of that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Oops. It's trying to set precedent and to set ourselves up and to set up safety precautions and all of that for the future. So it's just about taking the long view and trying not to be short-sighted on this and just
hmm
say that, like, well, I need to work right now. Obviously we all need to work right now,
Yep.
but we're holding out to try to make sure that we still have jobs in the future. Anyway,
Right.
that was the soapbox thing. But just to say that the graphics, the gameplay, the every aspect of it, whether it's performers or developers or people who are making the game, everybody, if you're invested in quality, then you really should care about this.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something
Well,
that
that's such a major element that immerses you more in the game, and that gets you. I mean, and essentially, it's like you said, it's an integral part of as the game as a whole because that's what creates the fans. Sometimes fans love the game, but they're waiting for that performance of their favorite character or something.
hmm
And yeah, I just yeah, it's very unfortunate, and I hope it goes.
Mhm.
I hope it goes your way, your guys' way, because
Yeah. I mean,
that's ridiculous.
there's digital replica stuff, but there's also generative AI, which is basically like stuff that they
Yep.
create that's just scraped from everywhere.
Yep.
And
Or
like,
spliced together. That's just
right, and just
horrid.
tell me that art that some AI made is gonna be as good as or as worth a project that artists and actors and performers and people who are passionate about this work made, right? That humans made
Right.
because they
Mhm.
wanted to.
And you touch on something like that. So like for me, I'm a photographer. I've been
Hmm.
I've been a photographer since I was a sophomore in high school. Like I needed an art elective. I was like, it was either jewelry or photography. I was like, let's go to photography, right? But then, my teacher unlocked that I had that hidden talent for having that photographic eye. And it's like to me, as I see photographs that are done generated by AI, and I'm like, okay, those are nice, but there's no
Where's the
soul
heart?
to
Where's the soul? Yeah.
where's the
Yeah.
soul? There's nothing there. Like, yeah, it's pretty, but it is never going to rival what somebody doing the actual work does.
Right.
And I think for us too, is we've been super supportive of, the actor strike, both the actor strike, the writer strike, and even the interactive strike, because we have some good friends of ours that are
No, a
voice
lot of
actors
friends.
and actors and stuff like that in the industry. And it's like, this is their livelihood. To your point, right?
Hmm.
Is, generative AI. It's like it just scraping lines together and stuff like that and whatnot. And you have to have some protections for that and that
Right.
security.
Nobody's saying, I mean, some people are saying, but the union is not necessarily saying absolutely no AI, never use it, never. I mean,
Nope.
it can be a tool that, like, if you want to use it, that's up to you, your game, your project. But every
But
performer should have the right to decide whether their performance is contributes to
mhm.
that or not.
There should be contingencies because, like you said, it should be used like a tool, not,
Mhm.
the end all
Not,
be all, oh yeah, create button, you know.
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like Scarlett Johansson, right? There was that issue a couple months ago where her voice was unknowingly put into an AI database and used for other things without her knowing
Hmm.
about it. And I think it's that very same thing you guys are fighting for. And I think that's the line, right? For me is
Yeah.
That kind of
especially,
thing has already happened.
yep.
Like, I think Bob Bergen, who is voice of Porky Pig, but he's done
Hmm.
a lot. Where maybe former voice. I gotta look it
Hmm.
up. But Bob Bergen is like a big deal in the community, at least.
Hmm.
But he has said that, early days he was played, AI voices and stuff, and being like, this is incredible. What is this technology? How did you do this? And they were
Hmm.
like, well, because of you. Yeah, we trained it using everybody's work, like, audition
Hmm.
samples that were turned in, or like, just everything. It's all been used as the Wild West. There are no protections. There are no
Hmm.
guidelines on this
Yeah.
stuff.
Mhm.
There is a case. I'm not sure what the current status is on this case. This is where my sort of ignorance comes in. But there's a Getty Images fair use case that I believe is being
Mhm.
argued. I mean, this is not just for actors. This is like in general. Every human, actor or
Yeah.
not, should be able to have rights over their own voice print, or their own image, their own anyway, I shouldn't bring that up if I'm not able to, like, speak about it
No, I
specifically.
can.
But
I just Googled
Yeah.
it on the fly
oh,
for
you
you.
would know, of course, of
Yes.
course.
No, I pulled it
Google on
up
the
right here while
fly.
I'm done. That's what I do. Anyway, so basically, Getty Images has sued Stability AI for copyright infringement. Basically, they were using Getty's images to train Stability's AI image generation algorithm. So
Mhm.
basically, they were
Oh.
using Getty's copyrighted images, which, even my work, the second I photograph it, I put it out there, it is copyrighted by federal law, and protected. So if Stability AI were to go and use my work to train their AI, I could sue over it too because they're using it without my permission. And
So
that's
is
the
it,
crux of the
but
case.
so the Stability AI's argument, though, is that it's allowable under fair use. That if it's out there in the world, that this is
Mhm.
one of the purposes for which it's perfectly okay to use it. And that's, all of us with published work out there. Like, they could take all
Hmm.
of the episodes of X-Men 97 and synthesize it isn't there something called, like, I just, again, my ignorance, but like, I just learned about this recently, but this thing, character.ai, right? Where
Hmm.
you're
Yep.
like, oh, I want to be able to have a conversation with Jubilee,
Yep.
or with
Oh yeah.
uh you know whoever, Walter
Hmm.
White, or, and it's all fed
Yep.
with copyrighted material. This
Yep.
is,
Well, I
the
believe
stuff
that
that
there's
came
even
out.
word of using social media posts
Right, right,
as
right,
Correct.
right, right,
source
right.
for things like that. So I mean, like
Wow.
there's countless things, and I feel like since we're on the topic of AI taking over everything, it
Skynet.
is to me it's not limited to creative or likeness or anything like that. Even like with things that how they are going, millions of jobs are at stake.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
you're talking about with just specifically, let's just take the example of game development. The artists, for one, we know from the creative from there, but like you had mentioned, the developers, like that, we already know that AI is being used for developers as a tool, but it can also replace the developers too, because all you got to do
Correct.
is learn a prompt, the correct prompt, and you probably have an entire game coded for you by
Yeah.
the AI.
Right.
And
And
as
the thing to watch
specific as
out
you want to
for.
get.
Sorry, go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, please, please.
Well, the thing to watch out for too is when they say like, yeah, but we're not doing that right now. What we're trying to protect against is the
Is the
ability to do that
future.
in the future. You know, because like, yeah, we're not going to do that, so don't worry about it. We don't have to address that. We don't have to put this language
The key
in
term
a game
is
contract.
Right.
now. The key term is now. We're not
Yeah,
doing
don't
it
worry
Right.
about it
now.
now. Yeah.
We
Right.
definitely want to do it tomorrow, but we're not doing it now.
See, and I'm
Right,
gonna go
but
nerd side.
this is exactly
Yeah.
why I think that the game companies are holding out is because they're holding out for the ability to do it tomorrow. Because
Yep.
so many for projects right now are fully able to sign on to tiered budget interim agreements, localizations, things like that, to sign on to just be like, okay, we're okay with that. We can agree to all of those things. We don't have a problem with it. The
Sure.
only reason not to move forward and just be done with this already is because you're so concerned about your ability to do that tomorrow that you're willing to die on this hill.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
just some things I won't die on a hill, but I think it's funny. Like I'm gonna go kind of nerd a little bit with this. Is the fact is that I love both Star Wars and Star Trek, but it's kind of funny that Gene Roddenberry
Nerd.
talked about this very same thing, and this is the whole crux of Star Trek is that technology overtook life,
Mm,
which is what they're kind of talking about with AI overtaking, replacing people's jobs, and there was no economic safety net there for people. Once you replace their jobs, what's going to happen? How are they going to make money? How are they going to live? And that's what led to everything in the Star Trek timeline. And I think it's rather interesting that we're starting to see that now. Something that was created back in the, early 70s is now,
well, yeah.
coming to
I
fruition.
mean,
Yeah.
people joke about like, oh, the dates, in the arbitrary dates in like projects about the future that as we pass them, they're like, oh, this is the Back to the Future date. This is the Skynet date or whatever.
Man.
But like,
Right? Guys, come on.
But also the imagination of where we thought we were gonna be in those movies, because you know what really whenever this
We all
subject comes
wanted
up, it
flying cars and
always
hohoverboards.
yeah,
right.
right.
Well,
And
this is
then
why
it
Children of Men was so good, right? Because it
Yes.
was the
oh
future,
man,
but it was not that different.
but
It was
that
like
that hit
Right.
it
real
was
hard.
Yeah.
exactly enough the
Yeah.
future to like be realistic.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you. So you brought up Rita's Rewind, right?
Hmm.
And being that was able to be done under that tiered budget. So I want to go to just the significance, the cultural significance that it was that you were able to play Trini, who at the time when the Power Rangers was first
Hmm.
out, she was one of the very few Asian characters that were actually
Yeah.
out there predominantly in
Yeah.
mainstream
On
entertainment
TV. Yeah.
on TV.
Hmm.
Like, how did it feel for you being able to carry on that mantle
That
in
legacy.
the way that you
Yeah.
were able to do it?
It's really, first of all, it's more prevalent so far, honestly, with Jubilee, right? Because that was yet again one of
Mhm.
the only other Asian Americans that we saw on TV,
Hmm.
and an animated character, and a lot of people couldn't tell that she was Asian,
Mm.
but yeah, this recognizably live action Asian character, a hero, who and I think is also significant. I have to say that in the game, because the VO is mostly just call outs, there wasn't a whole lot of like prep work and backstory and sort of getting into it, and like because it's not necessarily a dialogue story heavy game, right?
Mm.
I did ask in the beginning, like, hey, do you guys want an accent? Because Tui Tran had an accent, you know?
Mhm.
And I think culturally that was significant to see. It was significant to see Asian American characters who didn't have an accent. And it's also necessary to see characters who do, who are just like living their lives and,
Mhm.
That was her
not,
natural state. She wasn't putting
yes,
on
Yeah.
exactly.
anything. Yeah, that
Exactly.
was
Living
her.
her life
That was
and
all
being
her.
cool. And, people with accents aren't necessarily like this other, right? Um, she's a significant character for a lot of people who had nobody else to see themselves in on TV. And not just, to see themselves at all, but in this like mega hit
Mhm.
runaway worldwide
Yeah.
phenomenon. That's a big deal. I kind of like currently during pandemic there were a couple of interests that there were a couple of rabbit holes that I went down that I could never have predicted that I would be interested in these things. One of them
Oh.
was skateboarding. That's another thing. The other was BTS. Because it was so far from like anything else that I've ever been
Oh,
interested in,
sweet.
but like, hey, I
Wow.
fell down that rabbit hole hard. But like, I
That's
freaking
so
love
cool.
that like this global phenomenon is like these Asian people. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they
Yeah.
be? You
I
know?
actually I have
Right.
another one for you. They're amazing, and this is my group that I fell in love with. They're called XG. They're
Okay.
amazing. Check them out. But I also love BTS too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's just like at a point where like the fact that they are Asian doesn't have to be this
Mhm.
major point of like of why they're I don't know. It's part of obviously it's part of their identity and things that make them who they are and great, but it's not this tokenism, and people are
Yep.
appreciating them just for
Yeah.
being awesome, and they also happen to be Asian, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to be a part of two such important characters from the 90s is a big deal. I will say that I didn't end up being asked to do to try to recreate her accent. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about that now because you never know like what the
Mm.
end product of the game
Mhm.
is going to be. You don't
Yeah.
know what the vision is when you're an actor who's just like, "Hey, record these 20 lines by yourself, please." And this wasn't like in studio. I didn't go in and meet anybody. It was just like I was given some lines and then I recorded in this booth actually.
Mhm.
And sent it in and it wasn't like a directed session. So I don't know, choices might be made different choices might be made in the
Mhm.
future, but anyway, that's I will say I did bring it up. That's all I wanted to say about it.
Yeah, and I think though to your
Yeah.
point though, right, and I think that's why representation matters
Mhm.
Yeah.
in our entertainment medium, right? People being able to see kind of themselves in some ways.
Absolutely. Because
And
we all have to figure out our ways to empathize or feel for a character that is not
Mhm.
like us.
Mm.
And many of us, especially who are not white or not dudes or not, like
yeah.
we've always
Yeah.
had to do it. And
Yeah.
so giving the majority, if you want to call it that, at least the demographic that's like been able to sort of claim the majority of like these popular characters and stuff like that, giving them the opportunity to see themselves in somebody who doesn't look like them or sound like them,
Hmm.
is only a good thing, I feel.
Yeah, it just adds to that unique element of why I think the Rangers and Mighty Morphins, I think, expanded generationally
Mm.
to its
Hmm.
popularity and the diverse cast to a
Hmm.
degree, and especially for the time, it was kind of out there. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Especially
I
for the
think that's
time.
why like it had that unique touch that
What's funny
everyone
about,
kind of found it.
yeah, it's both moving the needle in its time, as you say, but it's also very much a product of its time in that the
Yeah.
yellow one was Asian and the black one was black.
Right. Yeah. But
I mean,
we were
What
like,
a
okay,
coincidence.
we're there, but
the
we
We're
90s
only one
were
step back.
gotta take a
the
few more steps forward. Then
okay,
we're there.
Oh,
Fully.
as the
But
elder
yeah.
generations and
statesman,
generations down, we did
Yeah.
get there.
as the elder statesman of this podcast, the 90s weren't perfect, okay?
No,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It was,
But-
you do see this sort of like,
You know,
it was a product of its times
we-
in that way.
they
But
tried.
still, we took what we could get
Yeah.
in those days, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I do have to ask you from an X-Men point of view, was Jubilee your favorite character kind of
No.
growing up? Who was your favorite character?
Rogue. Always
There you
Rogue.
go.
All about
Yeah.
Rogue. Obsessed.
That's so
Obsessed
cool.
with Rogue. 100%.
How is it?
Definitely cried when I first met Lenore Zan.
I was gonna ask, how did it feel meeting Lenore? for the
Of
first
course I
time?
was gonna. It was inevitable.
How was it though when you got cast to be Jubilee in X-Men 97? How like
I
as
screamed,
a fan
you
of
know?
it was like
Yeah.
how was it for you?
Yeah,
Like full circle moment?
screamed. I mean, even being able to audition for it was very exciting. I'll try not to dwell on this too long because we've told the audition story before, but like
Yeah.
the audition comes through from your agent,
Yep.
in my case from my agent, as they do, and it's like a pile. And of course there are code names, and of course it's not called Jubilee. The character is called something else. The project is called something else. But at the time they were looking for a voice match, and so they had these clips that were like, "Oh, try to sound like this." I'm like, I know
You're
exactly
like-
what this is. First of all, oh my God, they're
that's so
making
cool.
this. Is that gonna,
Yeah.
they've
Yep.
had other series since then, but of course, like, so I just assumed like it was a related series, like it was, anything like Evolutions or Wolverine and the X-Men, an X-Men
Yep.
series, but not necessarily that show.
Right.
And so
That one.
when they're looking for a voice match, it's sort of like, you never know what you're actually auditioning for. They don't tell you, and they try to keep you from like figuring out what the stuff is. But yeah, that was exciting. It was exciting to learn that they were working on some new X-Men show. It was super exciting that I was even being considered. I worked really hard on those auditions. I kept playing them back to be like, okay, I know that I sound enough like the predecessor because
Allison.
we spent
Yep.
every recess until Power Rangers came out and like stole their thunder. But like every recess we were playing these characters. And so sometimes I'd be Rogue or Storm or Jubilee, but like I remember having arguments at like age 8 of like this obnoxious thing of like, nah, that's not what she sounds like. She sounds like this, who can be like the best imitator. So I've been working on this on that voice since I was 8 probably. But then of course you have to go back and just like, I really want this job, so let's make sure that doesn't prevent me from getting the job because I work it to death. But I do want to make sure that yes, they're looking for a voice match, but they're always going to be looking for the best actors. So I want to make sure that I'm actually telling the story sounding like a human, just sounding like a real person, just like doing my job as an actor in addition to achieving the voice match. And then when I booked it, like I was in holding. I was working on a different TV show and I was in holding, and I got the email and it said, and I like, I saw like, congratulations, and like I screamed, and it just said like, we have the offer, for you. So I'm like, yeah.
It's like if it's
That's so
$1,
awesome.
yes.
I'm like, no, I don't agree to those terms. I want more.
I need this. I want this. I want this.
Well, I
Right.
will say this: you, as Jubilee, you did a fantastic
Oh
job.
my God! Yes.
Because
Oh, it's so good.
I couldn't
Ta-
tell.
yeah.
Honestly, I thought it was Allison Court to begin with. Like when I first saw the episode. So I want to say, so we know there's Montendo, which was a great
Yeah.
episode. It actually gave Jubilee her
I love
spotlight.
that
for
Yeah.
episode.
The Motendo
we-
episode. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, and I was gonna say, and you got to be opposite the original Jubilee
Yeah.
for that episode. How was that for you specifically to be carrying, like you're carrying on the mantle, but here's Allison kind of
Yeah.
being there supporting.
And then after that answer, second question: if you did see the episode, what was your initial feeling when you finally saw the episode?
Did you just say if I saw the episode? Like,
No,
I
I'm not-
never
I'm not-
did any
yeah,
of it,
or-
like, nothing.
yeah.
The question should be
Things-
how many
But,
times
We
did you
just
see
went
it?
over the
I'm just saying things
fangirlness
happen
of
if you
this.
didn't get to
Like,
If you didn't
It
get
was
to see
pretty
the
much
show yet,
implied
Yeah.
2 minutes ago, sir.
I'm not
I'm
assuming,
offended
but
as a fan.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
even if I didn't, I mean, I guess if I had auditioned and then not gotten the role, I might have delayed watching it because it would have made me really bummed out. But yeah, like I'm like number one at 12 at when the clock strikes midnight here. Just
12:01.
being like
Yeah.
Oh,
load,
awesome.
load, load,
Yeah.
can't
Yep.
wait.
Oh, I
Um,
binged first thing too.
yeah. So yeah, again, they don't really tell you in advance, right? Like they don't give you
Mhm.
an overview, or they didn't give me at least an overview of like here's sort of where you're going. Here's what's going to happen to you
Oh.
in this first season. So they give you the script. As an actor, you always want them as early as possible so you can work on
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
For leak proof reasons, but also I'm sure just because they're not done writing them, I often didn't really get the scripts until last minute. But then also, I think that day, if I recall for that episode for specifically, I didn't get the script. I think I didn't get the script until like 2 hours before, and I was at work and I couldn't read it. So like
Oh, wow.
I got in. I
Wow.
probably
Oh,
skimmed it
wow.
on the train when I was like, I gotta go from my day job at that time, and then like I was in New York, and take the subway to Out Loud in New York to the studio, and I probably
Mhm.
skimmed it, when I could. I probably. Or I'm not. I'm do this like it was an iPad, but like I'm sure it didn't have it that big. I'm sure it was like on my phone, and I'm like trying to do this while
Yeah.
I'm like on the way there. Um, and so I didn't really get to prepare, but I like as I was reading it, of course, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is so cool.
Yep.
Everything that happens to her is so cool. And it
Yeah.
did not even occur to me for 1 second that they were getting Allison Court back. So we do the session, I record the stuff that I'm supposed to record, and then our amazing and wonderful voice director Meredith Lane was like, okay, I think that's, she's synthesizing all the notes from whoever on different channels, and she'll do the direction. But she's like, okay, anything else, guys, or whatever is that? And then she's like, okay, I think that's it. And I was like, oh wait, am I recording? Am I also doing the voice of Absissa? And she's like, no, we have something else in mind for that. And immediately I'm like,
Ooh,
"Ah."
nice.
That's
So cool.
that's awesome.
Oh man.
So the next time I went in, both because there are always rewrites, and so I went in probably to re-record some stuff or record new stuff, some rewrites or something like that. But obviously, I was super thankful because then I would get a chance to sort of a second chance at the stuff that had been essentially a cold read the first day. I
Mhm.
would want a chance to do it
Yeah.
better. And so I went in the next time, and I think the next time that I went in, they had maybe recorded Allison Court, and so
Ooh.
they shared some very kind words that she some just really encouraging, wonderful things that she had said because she's so lovely. And by the way, I have to say that before we were ever put in touch, we didn't have each other's contact until shortly before the premiere, I think. Um, Early on, once I booked the role, um, I sort of, I think during the there was like a test record, so let's call it a
Mhm.
callback. But so I was called in for a test record where we recorded essentially, just to like a mock session basically.
Mhm.
So it was sort of like how a regular session would go, just to see if everybody vibes and all that stuff, and they can hear what they need to hear, and you know. So it was, I think then, I think it was then that I was even told. It was like either then or not until my first actual session that I was even told that that it was a direct continuation, and that some actors were reprising their roles. Some legacy cast were reprising their roles. And so I was floored. I cried everything, but I'm pretty sure that I like was like, I'm gonna be on the same show as Lenore. And like knowing that I was playing Jubilee, I went and looked up like, is that actor no longer with us, or like what
Mm.
happened? And so I looked up, and of course in all of it, Allison Court is like the first one to say like, I'm not going to play that role, I'm stepping down, so
Sure.
that an Asian, there are too many Asian actors that I know that would be perfect for it and should play this role. And so knowing that that she was already supportive, like on principle, was huge, because even though I already think, I mean, I have my opinions on like what the right thing to do is, and I'm gonna follow that whether the legacy actor agrees or not. But to know that we were on the same page about things, like, of course, that makes me feel 1,000 times better. And then in session to get like specific praise is like, of course that's very meaningful. You want your predecessor to tell you that you're doing a good job and sort of that. And she didn't have to do that. So then we were re-recording some of that actual conversation that we had, because the majority of that section of the episode is actually not us talking to each other. It's me and Roberto like running all around. But that actual conversation. First of all, I have to say that the finished episode was rewritten, so I feel like some of the meaning was a bit different, like between the two characters, sort of like what they were saying to each other. But it was, it's both Absissa talking to Jubilee, it's Jubilee talking to Jubilee. But it's also, of course, I'm hearing the playback on her side of the conversation, and of course it's just like it's very meaningful to essentially have Jubilee talking to Jubilee, but also Allison talking to me.
That's awesome. So one of the things, because we're kind of getting to the top of the hour for this and value your time and everything, so we do two things, kind of for fun on the end of the show, especially with voice actors. So if you could voice any character, doesn't matter, literature, movie, or whatever, or you could act that character, what character would you want to play?
Gosh. Specifically voice
or
Sure,
film,
voice or act.
like either one.
I mean, I was just thinking there are a lot of theater characters that I haven't gotten the chance to play.
Okay.
Okay, that's a different take.
So, well, I just saw some theater, and I was in London in January, saw a bunch of theater. But I've done a lot of Shakespeare, and I haven't gotten to play, just because of like, you are the type that you are. I haven't gotten to play a lot of ingenues. I'm always like a character role, with these. So like I'm always like a character role, which I don't mind. I think that often these are the more interesting characters. But I also think I have always thought there would be something interesting in having an ingenue character that's played by somebody who's not typically an ingenue type, like for lack of a more, it's more nuanced than this, but to say like the ugly ingenue, or like, the like, I just feel like it would be a more interesting ingenue, like Viola, or I don't know. I'm not as interested in a character like Juliet, but I'm also never offered that. I played Benvolio, literally. I played Festa. So those I would be very interested in. For voice specifically, I mean, like, obviously, I always wanted to crack at Rogue, but like, you can't, like, it's not to say that you think you'd do better, if you want to play that, because how can you improve on perfection with Lenore Zann? But like, I don't know, just the
Get to put
opportunity
your
to
spin on
play
it.
in that playground. The part of the actor's joy is not necessarily like the finished product, but just to get to do it, and just to get
to try your interpretation of it.
And that's what we love asking, where it's just like, it could be anybody, and you're like, oh, it could be
Yeah. I
opposite
mean, I feel
roles
very
too.
boring to say another character that's in the same show, but honestly, when I was 8, like these are the characters that first got me
Oh
interested
yeah,
in
Yep.
voiceover. Um God, I have to think of like the entire expansive world, and like on the spot, I'm like, God, who what would the character be? You know?
And
oh, that's
then
such a top up.
Jason,
Yeah, and so
I'll let you ask the question.
yeah, so as always with our introductory guest question on your family game night, whether it be with friends, family, siblings, what is the go-to game of choice? Board game, video game, charades, anything.
Whatever. What's that go
Well,
to?
first of all, I gotta say I do like a good jigsaw puzzle. Um,
Yes.
Ooh,
but
okay. Ooh, nice.
You
but
just pulled at Jason's
Brownie points to
heartstrings.
Jason.
Yes,
I just pulled a
yes.
what?
No,
Brownie points
I
to
have
Jason.
so many puzzles that I'm like, I have that I'm like, oh yes, beautiful.
Um,
It's
I
relaxing.
it is
It's very
relaxing, and you can
relaxing.
talk, you can chat while you do it. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
require both those parts of your brain.
Mhm.
Um, I also like apples to apples. I have to say, I don't really love the offshoots like Cards Against
Hmm.
Humanity, and all that stuff, because I feel like the fun of apples to apples is that it is such a blank slate that
Mhm.
you bring, the wit or the or cynicism or whatever you want to bring to it. Whereas
The
Cards Against Humanity,
raunchiness.
I feel like they've
Like
decided
set
the
it for
flavor
you.
of that game. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I do like apples to apples for that reason. And Taboo, I feel like the kind of like
Ooh, classic.
word games are kind of
Nice.
fun,
The ones
where
that
you have
make you
to sort of
think.
cleverly get around around things.
Mhm.
There you go.
Nice.
Yep.
I
Yes.
like
Very
that.
nice.
All
That's a
good ones. I
first.
love it. I love it.
Those have
Apples to
never
apples
come up
too.
before.
It's
Yeah.
well, it's so like you could play. It's all ages. You're not like structured into like Cards of Humanity as like it's kind of like a little bit more racy or it's a little bit more. But apples to
Yeah,
apples,
it
it's
can go
pretty.
that way,
It
but
very
if that's the
can.
Mhm.
It
vibe,
very
but
can
like
go.
leave us the option. Let us be creative and
Right.
take it there.
Yeah. I mean, if you play with kids, because like sometimes I'll play with like some of my like nieces and nephews, and like some of the options that we play, like they just go way over their heads. But like
Yeah.
the adults are like, do you really do that? Did you really do that?
Yeah. But it's also fun because kids will come up with completely different like
Oh
neural
yeah.
pathways that you would have never occurred to
Mhm.
you. And so you're like,
Okay.
that's fascinating. That's what's fun about it.
Oh,
Yep. So,
nice.
Holly, we appreciate you coming on for this
Thank
episode,
you so much.
especially the education on the strike, which, like I said, at the
Yeah,
top,
for sure.
we
That
don't
was a
hear a lot of
really
that.
great conversation.
Yeah, and I
That
have to
I
say
really
that
really enjoyed that.
I tried to brush up right before this, but I'm not, the expert. I
Mhm.
had the good fortune of being able to speak with some of the experts who like, either had a
Oh
phone call
yeah.
with me or like, but gameperformancematters.com, they have a link tree with like, resources if you want to learn more specifics. And I'm sure there's a lot that we didn't even
Hmm.
get to like nitty-gritty wise, but
Sure.
Of course.
hopefully there's I hope I got like at least some useful information
Oh
there,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
there's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
more to know and people who can say
Hmm.
it better than I can, so look those people up.
Yep, absolutely. So, for those of us, or for those of you guys that are watching this episode or listening to it, you know, thank you guys. It's always our privilege to, kind of give you guys that distraction. Also bring on guests that you guys normally wouldn't have a chance to interact with unless you're in an area that has a convention, that you can go to, and learn about some different things. We've already set up a profile on the website for Holly, that has a link to her Instagram, which has a lot of her postings on the next cons that she's got coming up, relatively soon, as well as her website as well. Um, but just with everything going on, everybody, please just be excellent to each other.
Thank
That's
you for
right.
saying that.
That's right, everybody. All you nerds out there, thank you, Holly. Thank you so much for joining. Once again, thank you for bringing a shining light to X-Men and bringing it more life to it. I can't wait to see what continues on for the next seasons and keep killing it because you're doing
Thank
an amazing job.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and absolutely loved the mojo. That episode was so packed with like Easter eggs, and I just loved it. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, thank you so much. And to everyone out there, once again, we want to send out that same message. You know, it's still, you know, we're past the elections, but we're still kind of getting crazy out there. You know, we need to take a step back. Let's just be a little bit more patient and open-minded and just try and listen. And let's just overall just try and do and be better and just try and lend a hand when we see an opportunity or just try and help. Be safe out there. Thank you very much. And J-Rock, J-Bone, to you, baby.
Well, anytime, Holly, you're always welcome on this couch. Just it might be a different one. They keep you know,
I'm just gonna
negging me
keep
on
teasing
that.
you until you change it, man.
I know. So it might be a
Over
different
and
couch,
over.
but you're always welcome on this
He
couch
still has
anytime
85
you want.
episodes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're at the end of the February already, 2 months into 2025. So, you know, it's the first quarter almost over with. You know, like we'll be fine. You know, 2025 is going to be a great year. Yeah, please follow Holly, follow like again, yes, just like Jerry said, I cannot wait to see like what happens next. But you know, we have to wait. It's okay, we can wait.
Hey, we do
But
too.
yeah,
No
oh
one
yeah,
is coming.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. You know, but yeah, anytime you're welcome back on this couch, it is always fun with the guys. I don't know. I don't really have that much to say because Jerry always takes all my stuff. You know,
Oh my
you know,
God. Oh
be
my
kind,
God.
be patient.
He'll
You
never
know,
take your couch away from you.
That's
that
right.
He can never. He can never.
Jason, you
give
just
it to
need
him.
to take some time, get some more original stuff, man.
I do. I do need to take a little second. But anyways,
And
my
then Jerry
man.
will steal it, and you got to do it again.
Yep, my man, Dewalski. He cannot steal this. Take it. So, send it out like you
Nobody
do.
does it like you, Jason.
Yes, sir.
That's
Send
true.
it out like
Always
you do,
unique.
Theo.
Well, to all of you out there, thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Good night, everybody.